Hey guys, number one Marmaduke fan here. I just saw the Super Mario Brothers movie with my friend Jack the Raccoon. We're planning to do a live stream at some point so we can both talk about our observations on the movie. So I have note cards. I am so serious. There is a culture war dispute about this movie. Is it woke? Is it non-woke? I've tried as much as possible to avoid it's woke, it's non-woke take, so I can give you a fresh perspective. That is kind of like the key interesting idea about the movie to me. I want to dig into, but real quick, I want to burn through some little bullet points and get that out of the way. How do I score this movie? I give it a 6 out of 10, maybe a 7 out of 10. Thumbs up. I enjoyed it. I had fun. It's not William Shakespeare. It's Mario. Does it need to be William Shakespeare? No, not really. It's not that ambitious. It's not doing anything profoundly deep. I'd maybe like a little bit more depth for the characters, but boy, did I have fun. Great popcorn movie, and I'm definitely gonna buy it and watch it with my nephew and niece. Okay, story time. When I was a little Marmaduke fan, I watched the live action movie. And the second my older brother or my dad popped it in and I heard the sound effect, I said, "This is going to be the greatest movie ever." And they looked at me and said, "Marm, you haven't even started the movie. Don't decide that yet." And I vividly remember being disappointed by the live action movie as a 9-year-old. When I rewatched the live action movie, it really grew on me. It's a weird and unique fun movie with great practical effects, but 9-year-old me was not digging it. And the Illumination Super Mario Brothers movie, that's the Mario Brother movie 9-year-old me desperately wanted. So it gets a thumbs up for that. Wait a minute. Mario didn't get married to a 7-foot-tall black woman covered with spikes named Big Bertha. This isn't a Mario movie at all. 0 stars. Chris Pratt as Mario from the trailer. I was kind of worried that Chris Pratt was going to phone it in. I was afraid, man, he's just going to sound like Chris Pratt for half of the movie. And for the other half of the movie, he's going to be doing a "It's a me, Mario" Charles Martinet impression, and it's just not going to work. And I ended up accepting him in the role as Mario. A lot of his lines and his deliveries were different than the trailer. I have a sneaking suspicion they did some re-recordings after the initial response to that trailer. He basically finds a nice middle ground where it has some of his gravel and a little bit of Charles Martinet's Italianisms in it, but he keeps it steady throughout the whole performance. So it wasn't grating. So I want to talk about the Minions vibe. When I heard Illumination was going to do this a few years ago, I was scared that this was going to be the Super Minions movie, that it was going to be really cloying and bad. I really liked Despicable Me when that first came out. I thought that was sweet. I thought the wacky sense of humor really landed in that movie. And I kind of noticed that after Despicable Me and the Minions became a meme and became popular, Illuminations has kind of become the Minions company. And they've never had a movie that I thought was anything more than just goofy children's entertainment. This is definitely the best Illumination movie I've seen. I would describe it as they controlled the tendency to want to put Minion-style humor in everything. There were a few gags that landed flat. I was kind of afraid that this movie was going to be 50% lame gags, and it's more like 2% kind of weird Illumination style gags. I think they wanted to rein it in to try to make Nintendo happy. And in some ways, I think maybe Illumination's goofy sense of humor fits with a franchise like Mario Brothers, where everything's goofy. It's about mushrooms, guys. You know, like the drugs. Did you know that? Isn't that a funny joke, guys? Mario Brothers, it's like they're on mushrooms. Ha ha ha. Yeah, don't take this franchise too seriously, dudes. Okay, those are my little bullet points. It's time. It's time for Peach feminist. Is it woke? Is it the culture war discourse? All right, the next card. All right, brain fodder. I want to tell you a little bit about what I read and what I was thinking about before I went into the movie, so you can kind of be on the same page as me. I read a great Twitter thread by Captain Molasses. He wrote this when the trailer came out that kind of showed Peach as a girl boss and started the internet arguments. So he basically talked about Peach's personality overall in the games, and he really focused on Peach in the Paper Mario franchise. And his one line that really stuck out to me is that Peach is supposed to be a brain over brawn type character. And the problem with making Peach a super tough badass girl is if she's super tough badass girl, you miss the chance to show her using her brain to overcome someone who's much stronger than her. So I really clicked with that, and I agree. We'll get more into Peach's character later, though. I did listen to the Critical Drinkers quick review of it. My guilty pleasure is I tend to use Critical Drinker reviews. If I'm ever on the fence about something, I want to listen to him to decide. If he hates something, I'll tend to hate it. If I'm afraid I hate something and he liked it, then he has a pretty good hit rate for me. So he kind of described Peach as surprisingly sweet and not woke. So listening to him kind of helped me allay my fears a little bit that we were going to be getting strong female protagonist Peach. And I also kind of agreed with him. He had the thought that the characters could have had a little bit more depth, and I agreed with him on that. And then I saw a few memes complaining about the whole phenomenon of, anti-SJW YouTube. Every single movie, it has to be about whether it's woke or not woke. So let me give you my TLDR. My TLDR is I do not think that this movie is woke. That's a topic for another video. But I do think that it is informed by feminist discourse over Princess Peach. So I can't talk about Princess Peach in the movie without giving you the TLDR on the feminist vibe. So part of my argument for this is there are interviews with Shigeru Miyamoto, there are interviews with the actors and the scriptwriters for this movie deliberately talking about how they explicitly wanted to avoid a damsel in distress vibe for Peach. They desperately want young college age feminist moms, Hillary Clinton voting moms. Oh, please, Hillary Clinton moms, please bring your daughter to this movie. We promise she's not a damsel in distress. So I'd say that's actually a textual, real thing that the creators of this movie have talked about. There are rumors that Nintendo intervened in this movie to make some changes. I haven't found anything about that. It's something that I believe Nintendo would do because Nintendo is meticulously concerned about their property. I think they once asked Disney to change the way that Bowser held a teacup in Wreck-It Ralph. So I totally believe that, Shigeru Miyamoto probably personally had a red pen to scratch lines through things and write hurtful comments to the staff of Illumination. But we have no evidence that that's what did happen, so I won't speculate on that any further. So let's talk a bit about feminist discourse as relates to Princess Peach. Remember Gamergate? Remember 2014? So one of the interesting things about this discourse is people have had this argument on the internet before. Back in 2014, one of the things that was a hot topic on the internet was I think it was Feminist Frequency. It was Anita Sarkeesian's show, and she had a series called Tropes versus Women in Games, and that show is so, nobody watches that channel anymore, right? It's very obscure. But back then, once upon a time, in the height of Gamergate, that video went viral, and everybody was talking about it. And the reason everybody was talking about it is Anita Sarkeesian picked the most famous female character in video games and used that as an illustration of feminist discourse and feminist deconstruction of the patriarchy in media, right? She picked a fight in the culture with gamers. Now, people have ripped apart Anita's argument. I'm not too impressed by Anita's argument or feminist critique of media in general, but shoot, I gotta find my spot. There it is. All right. So let's talk about the feminist lens. So the feminist lens, people who look at media through the feminist lens tend to see the damsel in distress as an inherently harmful trope that hurts women. It's sort of, I think Anita's word for it is, it's sort of like Peach is sexual property and Mario, by rescuing her, is claiming his sexual property. Now, I am not a feminist, but I actually kind of want to try to steel man this argument. How strong can I make this argument? So what I would agree with is I think it's bad to teach girls learned helplessness. I don't think that you should teach a girl that she should not take any responsibility, not take any action, just sort of blandly accept her fate and wait for Prince Charming to ride in and fix her life and do everything for her. I want girls to go on adventures. I want girls to learn courage and heroism. I want girls to learn responsibility. All right, do we have some shared ground? So my problem with the feminist argument, not just against Princess Peach, but Cinderella, there's some of this, is feminists tend to think that if a girl is ever a damsel in distress, that makes her a bad character. If she's ever in distress, she's nothing but a damsel in distress. She's nothing but an object in a hero's adventure story. My problem with that is, my way of wording would be, if a girl character is a damsel in distress, she doesn't have to just be a damsel in distress. If a girl character needs help from the hero, that's not the same thing as the girl character being a hapless idiot. And in fact, if you put a girl character in distress, one of the things that can happen is she can demonstrate how she deals with distress. Is she brave, and does she stand up defiantly to her captor? Is she smart? So maybe she's not a very physically strong person, but maybe she uses her wits to trick her way out of it. Or maybe she uses, her noble spirit to kind of like appeal to the bad guy's heart and teach him the error of his ways, right? So when you put a girl into distress, you actually have a lot of opportunities to show her heroic traits as a heroine. That's all I'm going to say on the kind of like the bigger topic of feminist discourse. Let's talk about Peach's traits. I thought a lot about who Peach is before I went to this movie, because I kind of knew that this was going to be, I knew from the Twitter discourse that this was going to be the big thing about the movie. So Peach in the video games, I would say she has 3 excellent traits. Number 1, she is a damsel in distress. She is the platonic ideal of the damsel in the distress, the epitome of it. It's what she's always been. That's her most consistent trait. Sometimes there is no story in the video game at all. And sometimes all she is an object or an abstraction that you just have to go save because the story doesn't matter to the video game. The only thing that matters is that you're jumping around on, mushroom people, right? Don't take it too seriously. It's a goofy game, right? But the second trait that emerged really early on in this character's history is she is also a badass. She is part of the adventure of Super Mario Bros. 2, but Marmaduke, that game's not canon. It's a reskin of Doki Doki. Whatever. Yeah, I know. But come on, it might as well be canon, right? Like Peach is a character in Super Mario Bros. 2. That game informs her moveset to this day. Characters that are part of that game are part of the Mario franchise this day. Oh, okay, Nintendo nerds. I know that little factoid. It might as well be canon. You want to talk about canon Mario Brothers? According to Mario Party 2, they're all just actors in a stage, which is why Bowser and Mario are friends off screen, because this franchise is a gigantic love letter to American vaudeville theater and the American comic strip. Canon doesn't matter. All right. But Peach is a badass, and her badassery in Super Mario Bros. 2, that informed her portrayal in the 90s cartoon, where she'll get into the adventures with the boys. She's a badass in the Charlie Nozawa comic. So the problem isn't Peach being a badass. She's always been a badass. What's that meme of the astronaut? Wait, you mean Peach is tough? Always has been. Bang! All right, the third trait is that Peach is a nice, girly girl. I think especially since the Nintendo 64 era. They reintroduced Daisy. They made Daisy a tomboy. Well, if Daisy's a tomboy, how's Peach different than Daisy? Well, she's got to be a girly girl. She's sweet. She's feminine. She's kind of got that, cute, smart alecky sense of humor. Oh, did I win? And she's got kind of like nice, motherly traits in some of the games, right? She's the kind of young lady who would make a great mom one day. So these are 3 great traits, but I think it's actually the combination of these 3 traits that come together and make this character beloved. Sometimes she can switch back and forth from one to the other really well. So in the old I think you can see these things in her in almost any appearance she has. In the OVA, there's a moment in the OVA where Bowser kidnaps her and she's throwing a bunch of furniture at Bowser. Right? She's not just hapless. She puts up a fight. When he's got her kidnapped, she comes up with a clever trick to trap Bowser in a bottle. Now it doesn't work. He gets out and keeps her kidnapped anyway. But she was still pretty smart. She's using her brain and trying to come up with clever tricks. That's pretty fun. I've already mentioned the party games. In Superstar Saga, there's this great running gag where, Peach gets kidnapped. Well, in Superstar Saga, they change it up. Her voice gets stolen, and every time she speaks, she can only speak swear words, and her swear words are literal bombs that blow things up. That's hilarious. So she is consistently in distress, but the way she's in distress changes from game to game, and sometimes it's just used with brilliant comedic effect. There's another great gag in Superstar Saga I don't want to spoil that's just like had me dying laughing. Where the whole point of the gag is that she is a goofy damsel in distress. The Mario and Luigi games are basically like a parody of the entire Super Mario Brothers franchise. Paper Mario, that was the one that Captain Molasses talked about. I think that's the best written Peach has ever been because there's this theme that she's like a spy. She gets kidnapped, but she kind of sneaks around and gathers information. She gets really powerful items to give to Mario in the game. So in the logic of the story, she's helping Mario save her and demonstrating her cleverness. And then in the actual gameplay, she's giving you, the player, really powerful items. So she feels useful to you as you're playing the game. That's such great design. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, there's this hilarious gag where she gets kidnapped by Bowser at the start and you immediately rescue her. So it seems like, whoa, is the story over already? And then no, she instantly gets kidnapped a second time. And then there's a great clever twist to that whole subplot that I don't want to spoil. And then she joins you and she fights along your side like a badass. She's always switching back and forth. The Charlie Nozawa comic. So people meme the Charlie Nozawa comic because that's a great example of Peach is badass. So I think the whole gag of the Charlie Nozawa comic is that we're used to seeing Peach as a damsel in distress. And so the hilarious twist is in the Nintendo Power comic, she is tough. She like charges straight into the front lines to take on Bowser, but then she immediately gets kidnapped. Just as Mario's coming to rescue her, there's this hilarious scene where he's flying in to rescue her just as she's flying out of the castle to escape, and they pass by each other. Mario smacks into the castle, and he gets kidnapped by Bowser, and Peach and Luigi have to go rescue Mario, right? So it's deliberately inverting her primary character trait of being a damsel in distress, but at the same time, so this is kind of like the whole crux of my argument. The fact that she's often a damsel in distress is what makes the comedy of that whole comic work. She's hopping back and forth. She charges into battle, she gets kidnapped. She escapes like a badass, and then she has to go rescue Mario, and then she gets attacked by Bowser again. She and Mario are sort of hilariously flipping and flopping back and forth so that they end up being two people who save each other quite frequently. Mario saves Peach, Peach saves Mario, Peach comes up with a clever trick to help Mario save Peach, Mario comes up with a clever trick to get him away from them. She is never just a damsel in distress. So that's kind of like that's what I have extracted from Peach. Maybe one last thing is her kindness is a big deal in the Paper Mario games. Her sort of gentle soul tends to inspire people to want to stand up to evil. So she has this is a really wonderful character, right? People love this character for a reason. My last Galaxy Brain take is Princess Peach as Queen Esther. Did you think we were going to talk about Mario Brothers on this show without talking about the Bible? I hope you have read your Bible or at least watched your VeggieTales. All right, so who is Queen Esther? Queen Esther is a Jewish girl, right? Ordinary Jewish girl. The king of Persia gets sick of his wife being rude to him, and he kicks her out, and he has a beauty contest. So he brings all the girls in Persia in, and young Esther is the most beautiful woman in all of Persia. So that's who the king of Persia wants to marry. And Esther is kind of conflicted about this. She's not sure if she wants to marry the king of Persia, and her uncle Mordecai kind of has to guide her and say, maybe this is God's will for you so that you can do something for God's people. So we don't know what would happen if Esther says no to the king of Persia. Is he going to force her to marry him using his power as king? Maybe he could have done that. We don't know. What we know is that something happens to Esther that wasn't part of her plan. And then she thinks about it and she decides she's going to accept this fate. She's going to accept being the queen of Persia. As the queen of Persia, her life is in danger. She can't approach the king without risking being banished or executed. But when she discovers there are political intrigues and there are people who literally want to eliminate her race, the Jewish people, she has to risk her life to intervene and rescue the Jewish people from death. She's a heroine. And then part of how she rescues them is she sort of uses courtly charm. She invites the king and the evil counselor to dinner. There's this cool thing where she waits until the last possible minute, and then she can't tell the king what she wants to tell him, so she invites him to dinner the next day. I don't really remember if the Bible mentions if Esther is doing this because she's scared, or if maybe she's doing like a clever thing where she's just trying to build up the king's anticipation and get him really excited to hear what she has to say. But she finally, at the last meal, tells the king about the evil plot and rescues her people, right? So who is Esther? She's someone who something bad has happened to her because she is a woman. She is being objectified by the king of Persia because of her beauty. She's, at the very least, she's being pressured into marrying the king, and she doesn't have much political power, but through courage and through her wits, she saves her people from being cleansed, right? She is a feminine heroine. Her journey requires heroism. So I see that trait in Princess Peach. She is put into danger, but in the midst of her danger, her heroism shines through, and her heroism is a particularly feminine kind of heroism. So that's Peach. What about Peach in the movie? I mostly agree with Critical Drinker. So to remind you, his basic take was Peach is really sweet in this movie. So the way I would describe it is Princess Peach in the Super Mario Brothers movie is 2/3 of what I like about video game Princess Peach. A, she's a badass, and video game Peach is a badass, so I'm fine with that. B, she is very kind to Mario. She's always gassing him up and kind of she sees the best qualities in Mario, and she admires Mario's courage and sort of never give up attitude. So that was great. If you were afraid that this is going to be Peach the evil, nasty battle axe, like kicking Mario and then smashing his face into the dirt and like constantly insulting and demeaning him, this is not that. She's a little sweetheart throughout this movie. But she noticeably is never she noticeably never gets that cool damsel in distress moment. And I'm convinced the reason for that is the people writing this movie are afraid that if they ever make her a damsel in distress, people are going to perceive her as being nothing but a damsel in distress. I think ironically that means we don't get a lot of chances to see her dealing with being kidnapped and being a kidnapped victim and doing something really clever and cool to get out of that. The closest we get is there is a moment where Bowser pressures her into marrying him under threat of killing her people. She agrees to save her people, and then her sneaky plan is in the bouquet of flowers, she hides a flower power-up so she can power up and start blasting people at the wedding. So she's in distress. She has a plan. She immediately effectuates her plan and starts kicking ass again, right? So we do see her in kind of a moment of distress, but it's not Mario who saves her. She saves herself, and she immediately goes back to the ass kicking, right? What that means is we don't really get a good chance to see how she deals with this problem. And I actually think this is actually not just a feminist problem. This might be a problem with the whole movie. There are a lot of moments in this movie where it feels like they could do a character moment here, but they are just keeping it moving and keeping everything at this very clipped pace, probably because they're assuming a younger audience with a lower attention span. So rather than getting to see Peach in distress and deal heroically with that, boom, she immediately gets herself out of distress. There are moments where she and Mario are having this really interesting conversation, just as I'm thinking, oh, maybe there's going to be a cool character moment between these two. Boom, there's a joke. Boom, we're off to the next, silly, exciting Mario Kart chase sequence. I think this movie would have been really helped with a longer runtime, and by getting to play out a few more of these character moments. I would describe it as they take moments to characterize them, give you a sense of who they are and what motivates them, but we never have enough time to kind of like rest with the characters and maybe really, they never feel more than just sort of cardboard, simple characters to exist in a children's adventure story. So let's talk a bit about Luigi. So is Luigi a manzel in distress in this movie? Now, let's talk about Luigi all by himself first before we bring it back into Princess Peach. So when Luigi arrives in the Mushroom Kingdom, he runs around and eventually gets captured by Bowser. Luigi's key character trait throughout this movie is he's Mario's little brother. He's always had Mario looking out for him and protecting him, and Luigi isn't really sure if he can stand on his own 2 feet. So he spends good chunk of the movie as a kidnapped victim, as a manzel in distress. He's rescued, and then at the end, he sort of finds his courage and helps Mario overcome Bowser, right? So the arc totally makes sense. If Mario's the natural-born hero, Luigi's a little bit more trepidatious, a little bit more of a fraidy cat, but Mario sort of inspires Luigi to find his courage and join the fight, right? So I wouldn't say that the fact that Luigi is in distress for much of the movie doesn't reduce him to a mere manzel in distress. It's a character beat that builds up to Luigi getting to show his heroism later in the movie. But I noticed that the movie is perfectly willing to make Luigi the substitute damsel in distress. It's sort of like you can't have a Mario movie without someone playing the damsel in distress. So Luigi ended up playing the role that Peach would normally play in one of these movies. So my argument is, if it's okay to write a man in distress, why isn't it okay to put Peach in significant distress? Now, maybe they will in the second movie, but okay, let's talk. Let me try to think of a few more examples if I can remember them. All right, there's a gag where Peach and Mario are setting out in the journey, and all the Toads say, "Well, who's that guy?" And Peach says, "He's nobody," and it kind of fell flat. So the gag is that Mario has just sort of shown up out of nowhere, and he's instantly going on this adventure, and Peach is the presumptive hero, and Mario just seems to be joining the adventure, and then they go off and have their adventure. So I get like the point of the joke. I don't think it was executed or delivered very well, but the point of the joke is kind of Peach doesn't really know who Mario is or why he's here. He doesn't seem like a big, strong hero. There's a whole subplot early in the movie where Mario is not that good at doing Mario things. He doesn't really get how power-ups work. He's not naturally good at doing parkour and just running across obstacles without getting killed. But Peach is very gifted at this. And the explanation of this is that Peach grew up in this kingdom. She's had a long time living here and getting used to how things work. And Mario isn't used to how things work. So Peach acts as his mentor and kind of teaches him how. It's noticeably Princess Peach teaches Mario how to be good at being Mario. And then she's noticeably very competent and very good at doing the Super Mario Brothers parkour stuff, right? Yeah, there's like a gag early on where just the first time they meet, she doesn't really know who Mario is, and she sees him running at her, so she does a judo throw to throw him down, right? So I would call these feminist vibe moments. These are moments where the Illumination movie staff are clearly going for, we want to get Peach far away from the damsel in distress archetype, and we want to put her into the strong female protagonist archetype. But then these moments of Peach's strong female protagonist are supplemented by Peach as gentle soul who admires Mario, sees his courage. I think it helps that Mario doesn't feel like an incompetent boob throughout the movie. He feels like a scrappy underdog. He feels like he's actually good at what he does. He's just inexperienced at living in this goofy cartoon mushroom world he's found himself in, and he's pretty consistently competent, courageous, and tough throughout the movie. And Peach sees that and believes in that and is inspired by that. Toward the end of the movie, basically, okay, I want to talk a little bit about the end of the movie. So in the end of the movie, I won't spoil everything, but of course, there's going to be a big final showdown with Bowser. So there's one memorable scene where Donkey Kong and Peach show up and start fighting Bowser as Mario is kind of wondering if he's down and out for the count. So it's his sort of dark moment of the soul. He wonders if maybe he doesn't have what it takes to take out Bowser, and Luigi comes and finds Mario and kind of like helps him get back on his feet. So while Mario and Luigi are having their bro moment, Peach and Donkey Kong are fighting Bowser. Bowser, picks up and beats the crap out of Donkey Kong, and Peach, she gets her feminist moment where she flies in and kicks Bowser in the face, and then immediately she's grabbed by a couple Koopas off screen. So the screenwriters haven't quite figured out how to use Peach the badass. She obviously can't just hop in and beat up an army of bad guys all by herself, or it wouldn't be the Mario Brothers movie anymore. We can't have her in danger to really strongly motivate Mario to help this person that he's grown to care about, because there's this theory that would rob her of agency and make her a mere damsel in distress. So we have her kicking ass. See, girl, she's feminist, she's kicking ass, and immediately she's captured, and we don't worry about it, right? Oh, look, Mario and Luigi are here. So are these feminist problems? They're definitely, this is definitely a portrayal of Peach where the feminist critique of Peach informed the writers textually. They wanted to get away from damsel in distress. They purposefully got away from damsel in distress. It's creating situations where they're trying to make Peach act like a badass, when it would work just as well for her to be temporarily captured. We know she's a badass. That doesn't mean that she's robbed of agency and becomes merely an object. It just means that if she gets cool moments in the sun, Mario needs cool moments in the sun. So I'm pretty conflicted. You're right. You can kind of hear. I kind of like came into this review wanting to talk out my thoughts. I guess the sweet aspect helped save it for me. Seeing that sweet, kind of compassionate side of her character helped her not feel like a stereotypical internet feminist where it's all about sort of aggrandizing herself. It gave her a little bit more depth, but the girl boss aspect of it did get on my nerves at points throughout the movie, because I just kept spotting it, right? It doesn't feel like her being a hero. It feels like the movie saying, she is so cool, she is so cool, you will like it. So, yeah, that's it. I'm not going to say any more. I feel like I got my thoughts out. Not woke, trash, it's not third wave feminist, but there's definitely a twinge of it in there. So okay, some fun hints at what we might get to see in the future movie. I kind of am hoping that this movie is going to be like the Shrek 1 of the franchise, where Shrek 2 has a much deeper theme and like a really great dynamic between the male and female characters. If this movie is like the Shrek 1 or the Batman Begins, I think it could be a great setup for a deeper and more substantive Super Mario Brothers movie too. But definitely fun. Nothing insane. It's not cinema. It's not The Godfather. It's not Hamlet. It is it's staying in its lane. It knows exactly what it's supposed to be. Fun kids entertainment. It's delivering on that promise. Lots of great little 30-year-old Nintendo boomer gags for you eagle-eyed people out there who played these games. It's fun. I definitely want to own it. That's it. I love you guys. I'm still demonetized, but I will never stop doing YouTube because I do YouTube because it's fun. So I'll catch you later.